I would change it up. Like I would buy stuff in thrift shops and just come home, change it up, or just throw on that old fashioned, really um 50s kind of dress that just and heels and just work that.
So today is January 22nd, 2021. Who are we speaking with?
Evevette Casc.
Define
Yeah.
house music in one word.
Oh, extraordinary.
Why?
The experience of hearing house music and dancing while listening to house music is an extraordinary experience that fills you totally spiritually, physically, mentally, and it's just a feeling that's almost like euphoric. Um, it's something that you have to experience to really get in touch with what that really looks like. And every time I'm dancing, I have this extraordinary experience all over my body, and it's fulfilling. It just fills me with joy, and there's so many other words I could use to describe it. But if I had to use one word, I guess it would have to be extraordinary.
I love it. Describe the moment when you fell in love with house music.
Well, I fell in love with music at an early age before I was born, I believe. But house music, I fell in love when I started to listen to, I believe, like WBLS station, Friday nights, I think it was. It may not be exactly certain dates and time frame, but I remember listening to WBLS or some of those late night, sessions, and just feeling like, that's like it, like that. I want more of that. Whatever that is that's on there, I want. And then I was having house music parties or dance parties in my house where I lived with my family. I lived in the Brownstone and Sunset Park. So at 13, I already was like exposed to the music, the atmosphere, and the culture, and getting more involved with like the groups of people that were hearing it, playing it, and getting in touch with what I was listening to on the radio. Just like I was like, I just wanted more of that. Whatever that was, I would wanted to continue on that journey because I already knew that dancing was one of my passions, and I used to go to ballet school, and I was going to be a performing artist, ballerina at one point in my life, or professional modern jazz dancer. And Alvin Ailey is one of my favorite dance companies, and if I would have pursued that career instead of my social work career, that's where I probably would have been. So music is part of my life and part of my spirit. Keeps me alive too.
So let's start from the beginning. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Puerto Rico, Guayama, and I came to New York at the age of about 3 months. And I grew up in downtown Brooklyn, like Brooklyn Heights. Um, then at some point we moved to like other parts of Brooklyn, like near Gowanus, and eventually we make our way to Sunset Park. And I grew up in Brooklyn, basically. And I always went back and forth to Puerto Rico, so I'm still a Boricua, from Puerto Rico, but I grew up in Brooklyn.
What kind of music did you grow up listening to in the house? What kind of music were you surrounded by?
I was surrounded by Latin salsa music. Both my parents love music and dancing, and I grew up with that throughout, regular experiences in my childhood. I remember also like having soul music, and my mother also had like one of those old fashioned boxes where she kept her 45s, and she had all these like 60s and 70s like the shoebop kind of music, and Dinah Ross. At one point I used to play her music, those records, and I used to become one of the Supremes. I was a Latina Supreme in my own mind, and I was singing and playing her 45s because that's how she used to collect those. So I was those so that kind of music, and then we had the salsa. And I remember my dad giving me my first Jackson 5, Jackson 5 album. And Rockin' Robin was the shit. I played that record at all my birthday parties, and everybody had to do the Rockin' Robin. So music was very much, experience within the household while I was growing up. So it's not, it's so natural for me to just be like, hear music and dance and just be so involved in it because I was in my mother's room while she was still dancing and partying. Because the day that she was gonna give birth to me, she was coming down the mountain, and they were in a party in Puerto Rico in the mountain, and in Guayama, and she gave birth to me later on. So she was in a party, and there was some major brawl, and they were just running down the mountain. It was some major event that happened. But before she was going down the mountain, they were partying hard to salsa music and dancing. So before I came out, I was already, in the midst of what music would be. And I guess your child gets exposed to it even when you're in the womb, I believe. So, but that's why I tell people I came out dancing. I was born dancing, and I was born to dance.
Do you remember the first nightclub you went to? And how
The
old were
first
you?
night, yeah. Well, the first major club that I went to was the Inferno, and um, I was around 13 when I started, and I know I was too young, but I got in. I think, whatever I do with the hair, the makeup, and the outfit, it still got me and my friends in. I grew up with a group of guys and girls that were from my neighborhood and also that I went to school with. So it was a combination of people my age and a little older. So we all partied together. It was like one big happy party family with guys and girls. We always wanted to just look good, smell good, and feel good. So I have a Sunset Park group of girls, my homegirls from Brooklyn, that were part of that journey, and we've had amazing nights out. And they were part, we went out in groups for the most part. And the Inferno, I remember, was one of my first big club experiences, and it was total fun. Like it was one of the fun places to go to, especially during the holidays and like Halloween. We would dress up for Halloween and go there with our costumes and just carry on. So it's pretty fun.
For those that don't know, explain to people, what is the Inferno? Is it in Brooklyn or Manhattan? Is it a gay or straight club? Is it a dress up club or a dancing club? Describe it.
The Inferno was, at the time, I remember it was a fairly diverse group of people that attended. I don't remember it being too gay or too straight. It was pretty diverse. Um, and it was just big group of party people. It was a lounge. There was a lounge, and it had the space that you could lounge if you wanted to chill and have a drink or just talk nonsense and whatever. And then one night I went, and it was Valentine's, and they had, I think, the one that sings Tanya Garden that sings Heartbeat, or that song. There was big heart in the middle of the lounge, and it was beating. So I was wondering why it was beating, and I was like, what is this? So they would decorate it sometimes, I guess, according to the theme. So that night I was like, probably had a little bit too much of something, that I was like, why is this heart beating? But it was part of the decor for the night. So it's a place that you can dance and have fun and relax and just dance. I mean, I think it was a combination of lounging and dancing at the same time. And it was a fairly diverse, from what I remember, it was a fairly diverse group of people. It wasn't like one, I saw it to be very diverse in terms of who went there back then. And it was a lot of fun. It was in Manhattan, and it was so easy to get to too. I remember it being easy to get to, and it was just one of my memorable clubs, because I remember it was one of the first ones, and I had a lot of fun there. So you didn't really have to dress up. Um, it wasn't like a like you have to. I didn't remember having. I mean, we like to dress up, and sometimes it was like to dress up and look either sexy or sexy cute, a combination of, and it was like to just represent. Here I am, and I'm gonna dance all night fiercely.
Explain that. What's the difference between sexy and sexy cute?
Because I think sometimes the sexy could be like something like maybe what I have on that, it kind of like shows my curves. It it kind of may be like this may be considered sexy, right? Because it gives me a certain look. Now, if I put on a certain other pants, maybe baggy pants with a t-shirt and heels, that would be a little bit casual, and that would be like, or with flats. And sometimes I would do the flats, which is, I prefer to dance in heels. Everybody knows. But if you wear the flats, then you kind of like change the sexy look a little bit. Then you kind of look sexy cute. It kind of softens the sexy because the flats for me, it makes me look less, like if I wear baggy pants too, or with a certain top, that's not accentuating my curves or my. So there's a cross between, and sometimes I would have to wear something more casual or more, maybe more relaxed, and sometimes that would look a little bit cute because I would go to certain clubs where, if I was gonna be out all night and I needed to change, and sometimes I guess I would change to something more casual or more comfortable. But I always enjoy the style, my authentic look, whatever was to wear that nobody else was wearing. I would go to thrift shops and just find stuff that I thought speaks to me, and I would change it up sometimes, or even have certain things I designed because I also went to fashion industries and FIT for a time, and that was also a career interest at one point. So I was big on fashion and what that looked like, that looked different than what other people may have been wearing, because I wasn't always following all the trends. I had my own authentic style. I would say that I like, but I want to change it up. And when I change it up, it will be my own authentic look. And so it depends what I felt like that I would, wear, and I would change it up. Like I would buy stuff in thrift shops and just come home, change it up, or just throw on that old fashioned, really um 50s kind of dress that just and heels and just work that.
Was it safe? Did you ever have an unsafe experience going out so young where somebody tried to hit on you or follow you or something like that?
Interesting, love. I never really worried so much about the safety. I always just focus on like my destination. Um, the times that I would go out and venture off by myself, or would leave like maybe 2 in the morning or something and just take the train by myself and say, I'll meet you there. Um, those would be like late night, unsafe situations, but I never felt that unsafety. Um, it never was a concern for me. I think I was a rebel in my own mind, and I just did whatever I wanted to do, and whatever I had to do going to a party or a club, like it was natural for me to just like, okay, this is the time, I'm ready to go. And when I was going with my friends and we'll go together as a group, so it would sometimes, whether I was with them or not, I never felt like unsafe. Basically, I just felt like really brave. I was like, it don't matter what time it was, as long as I got to the party. And I think that's really all that mattered, was getting to the party and having a good time.
Now, one time you got caught sneaking back in. Explain to folks what happened when you came back from the club and you got caught.
Yeah. Um, that was later in my get older in my teens. After years of sneaking out of the house sometimes, the times that I had to, um, I, you know, towards my later teens, there was this incident where I actually would plan like a way to not get caught, because I felt like, how long am I, could anybody get caught with something they're not supposed to be doing according to their parents' regulations, right? So I would actually leave like a change of clothes that were more like casual, like I don't know if it was dress, sweatpants and a t-shirt or something, whatever would make me look like I was in out. There was like a little shed before you walk into the house. So I would leave that a bag of in that shed, and then I would return in when I returned in the morning, which would be sometimes like as late as maybe it could be like 6, 7, 8 in the morning. Very early in the morning. And I would go to the grocery store and buy something. So I would look like so I would change up, walk in with whatever whether it's bread or milk. Because I was one that I'm the oldest of three, so I had errands, and so of course one of the errands would be going to the store for grocery shopping. So that was not unusual for me to be in. So I walk in, changed up if I had to change up, which most of the time I had to if I snuck out, and and then I would walk in. I walked in, and I'd have the bag with the item, and this one incident, she was in the kitchen asking me where I was, and then I said, I'm looking at her like, you look, I just came from the store, and she was not having it. She was like, no, you did not just come from the store, and I thought she was just gonna kill me. And my mother doesn't beat us; she never beat us, but I just felt like my life was over. And I ran into the half bathroom that we have on the first floor, and I locked myself up there until she cooled down. Because one of the things I knew for sure that I didn't get hate, but I would get punished. And it was like my privileges would be taken away. She wouldn't give me my allowance. She wouldn't let my friends call me. She wouldn't let me go out and hang out with my friends. So she would punish me in different ways. And I hated not being able to go shopping with my allowance or getting my calls from my friends. So of course, but I still survived it. I was like, whatever. But I thought that I could negotiate being able to go out, even though she caught me. And I tried to negotiate. I said, listen, I know you don't want me to go to these clubs. I understand that you feel I'm too young, but I really need to go to these parties. You don't understand. It's something that I I just had to do it. And she knows what it's like to go out because she a party lady. She been doing it all her life too. Except she got 3 kids now, and she was like trying to stop me from doing it at my age. Was kind of too young. I get it, but I had to do it. I was like, Mom, please, at least twice a month, let me go to these parties, these clubs. I know I come home late, and she wasn't having it. It resulted in not, she was not having it. I remember it was like 17 when I had that conversation, and she said, no, if you come back, if you go to this club and you come back the next day, I'm gonna have your stuff packed and I'm shipping you to Connecticut to live with your family. Sure enough, I went to the club. I came back the next morning and I did not go to no store. I just came back with whatever I was wearing. I was like, listen, I'm going to this club. And the next morning I came and I was shipped to Connecticut to live with my cousins. And which was a nice experience, but it was boring because it was very suburb like. It was West Hartford. Anyway, that kind of changed the course of my life for a moment, but I still came back to New York and continued my journey in my my rare form with my friends, and because I just couldn't, I love my family, I just couldn't live there. But that's what resulted in not being able to negotiate getting to go out because at any cost I was gonna go. Like I used to stay with my cousin, sometimes be like I'm staying over with him, and then we would go out to different clubs too, especially the gay clubs because he's also gay. So there was different ways to get out, but if I had to do it from leaving the home, unfortunately, sometimes I had to sneak out. My friends would be like, "Are you coming tonight?" I'd be like, "Well, if I successfully sneak out, which usually I did, then I guess you will see me there."
You also went to David Morales's party in Brooklyn. Tell us about the name of the party and what that experience was like.
The Ozone Layer was a really cool spot in Brooklyn, somewhere in Flatbush, and it looked like it was like somebody's big living room with wood floors. Um, it was pretty good to go, like, cause I enjoyed his music and his style, so I went quite often. It wasn't a dress up place; it was like wear whatever, very very casual. But he played really well. I enjoyed the party, and it was a party that I went to quite frequent. Um, And I remember that it didn't seem as, it seemed more like color, people of color, like Latinos and people of color that went to the party more from what I remember. Um, and it was somewhere in Franklin, Brooklyn. So maybe that was one reason. I don't know, but I know that we were in there having a good time with David. And it just looked like one big, like, miniature loft because it was wood floors. So it was good. The floors were perfect for dancing. I remember that. Now there's only cement floors in some of these places that we dance on. So I really appreciated the space was good for dancing and it was comfortable for that.
And then after partying in Brooklyn and other clubs, you finally made it to the Paradise Garage. What is the Paradise Garage and what makes it so special?
The Paradise Garage was a place unlike any other place, like no other club, no other party. And what helped make that so possible was Larry Levan and his magic with the music that he not only produced or created, or just the way he played it and the way he, just delivered. What he delivered was giving us what we needed to experience that euphoric, extraordinary, ongoing party experience. Like, it was like a place that I never wanted. It was like you go and I just never wanted it to end. Like, I just wanted to party in that party forever. I remember nights where, well, I would say mornings, because by the time it was still dancing, maybe it was like 6 or 7 in the morning, and I was like dancing all night, and I was tired, and I said, I'm gonna just dance on the floor. So I was laying and just dancing on the floor because I was like pretty exhausted from dancing all night on my feet, that I literally just like danced on the floor. And it just felt so, I still was enjoying the music, that vibe, the atmosphere, and the people. And it was very diverse in terms of the type of people that went, but it was primarily gay, especially Saturdays. It was a house for happy gay people, especially the Black gay boys. And it was an awesome place to like just be yourself, like, and just be like, it's like, oh my God, this is the best experience ever, and you just never want it to end. So whoever got to experience that, we're fortunate, because they always look back and remember that and cherish those memories. Although we have good parties going on now, but it's just that those memories are so rich when it has to do with house music, house parties, and fantastic DJs that make it all possible, right? Um, and Larry being the pioneer that he was, he just paved the way for all these other extraordinary DJs that are doing their thing now too, including Louie Vega. And just like awesome stuff came out of that experience. But it's a club that, oh my God, it's almost like you couldn't wait to get in, and then you just never wanted to leave. And that speaks for like that being like the most magical place to have been on earth. And when you try to replicate that, it's really not possible. But thank God for David and Joey that keep Larry's legacy alive, because a lot of us garage freaks is what I call us, still want to feel a little bit of that every so often. And when they do that, I always say Larry's spirit is here with us, partying with us right now. Because I'm sure that he's looking from above or wherever he, and thinking, wow, I'm so glad that you people are still partying with my essence, and that's something that I will always remember. And it's just so moving. It's just moving. Uh, and I'm glad I got an opportunity. I was probably too young to be there, but I was glad I got in. And I had my membership card, which was gold, which is, I guess, for the Saturday people. And there were different diverse color cards for different statuses. And there was this Friday, where if you were straight, they would let you in on Fridays. So, and then Saturdays was gay. And then, so everybody had different card depending on their status. I should have gotten the VIP status, but I was not always a party guru, like DJ guru. I would go to the party and dance, and I was not like a DJ guru where I would be like meeting DJs and follow them around. It's like I would meet the DJs. I have gone up to the booth and met Larry maybe once or twice, and I would be okay. So I met him. Now I go back down to the dance floor and dance my ass off because that's really what it was about for me. It's always been about feeling good and dancing, and of course looking good too while I'm at it. But the dancing it's all about the dance. It's all about the dance. So yeah, that's I'm known to just go be on the dance floor.
Garage is a membership club.
Yes.
So who introduced you to the garage? Who was the person that brought you there?
I believe I may have gone with my friend Michael, who was a mutual friend of my cousin's, and we started to go on Saturdays. I also had gone, so I've gone with them. Like I've gone with my friend Michael, my friend Frankie, and they were gay. So it was like my little gay crew. And then I had my straight crew, and only like maybe one or two were gay. And they were like my homegirls from Sunset Park and the guys from Sunset Park. So I had like different clusters of groups that I would hang with, and I would party with each at different times. But primarily, consistently with those groups. Like I would party with those groups. Very rare would I venture out by myself to do something different. I was usually with these groups of people, or with just one or two friends. I'll meet you there. So my gay friends like Michael and Frankie and my cousin Louis sometimes also went with me. It was a big Madonna fan, so every time Madonna was there, it was like we had to be there with Madonna. And I was in, so that's um, the people that I started to go with. And then it would go, we change up every so often. Who else wanted to, go to the party? I would go with them depending on the night, like depending on the mood in the night. But there was always like a consistency of certain people. It's like, okay, this is, and then every so often it would be spontaneous, like, all right, I'm going out, and who wants to go, and we'll just go. Smoke some pot, drink some something, and do something, and just get going, and make it our way to the club. And sometimes, party club hopping to different places like Melons, um, and other spots that I probably can't remember, but there's like all these other small spots or underground clubs or bars, and we would and then make our way to also just make yourself way to the club that was the garage. It would be later because that would be a later club for the most part than some of the other spots that probably weren't open till like 8 in the morning or as late as those places.
Talk to us about after the garage. So after you finished partying all night, would you go to the Pink Teacup? What would you do after the club?
Ah, the Pink Teacup. I didn't get to go to the Pink Teacup till like before it closed, actually. So I never made it there. I don't remember making it there. I used to go to breakfast sometimes, or we would go to the park, Washington Square Park, and I remember going to the beach sometimes too. So, but for the most part, it would be the breakfast or the park that was close to walk to, or just going home, depending on how the night ended. Because sometimes you were either too tired or you just got hungry. You just go eat and go home. So it depends like how the night ended, and how late you stayed. Because it would be like most times you leave in the morning, like 6, 7, 8 in the morning. I'm sure there was other times that it was later, where it was like maybe in the afternoon. I'm sure there was times that it was later, especially in the loft. You go late, you will leave late. So depending on the mood is how I would determine how I ended my night. I don't think I went to breakfast every time because I may have just wanted to go home, or I was just like, whatever I had consumed that night, maybe just didn't feel like I want to eat and do anything else. So it depends.
Talk to us about, you've also worked as a cashier and also doing merch. Talk to us about a cashier, being a cashier for a party or a club. What is that experience like? What time do you have to get there? What does the count look like? How do you keep the money organized? Has everyone ever tried to rob you? Like, like how do you deal with people who say they're on the list and they want to reduce ticket? Like, talk to us about just being a cashier and working the door at a club. What's that like from beginning to end for somebody that knows nothing about this life?
So I've worked in roles like cashier, will call, and merchandise sales person. And um, as a cashier, I didn't that role I didn't do as much as the merchandise and the will call. But as a cashier, uh, it would be just making sure that the money was intact. I never felt that I was going to be robbed. I think I'm the wrong one to try that with. I take the work very seriously, just like my so-called other profession as a social service provider and a clinician. I work with mental health people. I deal with people that have issues when they come to the door too. So I kind of know how to navigate, but it's a little different because I'm in my personal realm, but I also take on a professional role in terms of being very responsible and loyal to whoever I'm working for. So I've never had the issue where I felt that I was worried about the money missing. I just felt like it just make sure I was counting it right, make sure I was um, on point with what was going on at the door. Um, and when it came to like people talking about when somebody wants to come in and say they're on the list, it depends who it is. Like sometimes if it's someone from the industry, you have to get a distinction of who's from the industry and then who's not. Or some people just want to act like they are from the industry. But it's basically like, listen, if I know you're not going to be on the list because there's no way that you're going to be put on this list, like why even keep battling that with me? Because no is no. I had no problem with the word no. And so, and the, but if it's someone from the industry, then you negotiate, you determine, yeah, this person wasn't put on the list, but they probably didn't get on the list timely or whatever. But depending on who I work with or for, whether it's John Davis or I've done like the party for Gorbea, or not that long ago I did the door for Gorbea, Jihad, and for Johnny. And so we had a list, so it was easier it was concise. But if they weren't on the list, then of course I would consult with them. If I felt that maybe they were supposed to be on the list or they insisting, and maybe I'll just consult with the person, like those people, like whoever I'm working for, whatever party I'm working for, I'll consult with the person that's the host or the promoter of that party. So I maintain pretty organized, and I'm pretty transparent. And but when it's someone from the industry, I gotta be mindful that yeah, they probably would be on the list, they just weren't put on the list, right? But if it's somebody that that just knows everybody and is on all the lists, and I have to determine, is that the one that I should just give them, the opportunity to come and just honor it. So it depends, but for the most part, it's about the person doing the party, and being successful party. So it's being fair to the process, like to ensure that the party is successful in terms of who comes in, how much revenue as well, but and also in fairness, the people that come in that should be honored because they actually would be on the list, right? And just not. So it's just being able to get to know the who's who and most in the for the most part. But when you're not sure, you just ask the person that you promote that's doing the promoting party. I've always told Don Davis, this person said they bought a ticket on Will Call, and I asked them one time, and they're on the list. And so I'll just consult with him sometimes. Be like, this person, bought their ticket. And then just, as long as it's fine with whatever they say, or if I feel that, yeah, it's obvious that there's a technical issue and that their ticket didn't get yeah, calculated and on the list at the time that he printed it, maybe sometimes there's a glitch with systems. But for the most part, I keep it very concise, and I stay communicating with the person promoting. That's important to be, um, although they're busy, either they're DJing or they're just running around promoting and hosting. But as needed, you know what, I'll consult with the person that I'm working with because they're the ones that hired me and are trusting me and trusting me to do this job. Um, and I guess they believe, that I'm a good worker. I think I'm a fairly good worker, even though people may try to complain because because I know how to say, no, you're not on the list. No, you're not going to come in, or no, you're going to have to wait till I consult with so and so. So people get really upset. And when I sell merchandise, I'll be like, don't put items, your beverage on the table. They get very upset with you. I'm like, listen, you spill the drink, then the item gets damaged. A lot of people complain about me telling them not to put. Listen, it's a responsibility, and it's my duty to ensure that whatever I'm selling stays intact. And I know some people complained about it, but I know I feel good about the fact that I preserve the merchandise.
I love that. You've been around the clubs for a while. Did you have any desire to DJ?
No, actually, I don't. And I know that most people do. Most people do, but I don't like. I love to still play cassettes and CDs. I still have CDs that I play. I don't, all that technical stuff that they do. I'll be so confused. I'm like, I'm the type would be like, I want to play some vinyl. If I was to want to be a DJ, I would want to play some vinyl, get down and dirty to it. But I know that things have evolved, and you would have to embrace the new technology. But I love dancing and I love singing actually. So sometimes I'll be like, maybe I should do a track or something. Maybe I should do one track and just say I got to do it.
Totally should. You totally should. Totally should. Talk to us about dancing. When you're working, do you feel like you missed a party, you don't get a chance to dance? How do you balance that desire to be at the party when you're working at the same time?
Wow, I've gone through that, especially when I started doing it. But what's good about some of the spaces that I worked in, it could be like the dance floor is right there, so I still feel the energy and the music. And sometimes, like in Cielos, I remember in Cielos, I used to get my groove on because the music was so close, and I would have to get moments that I couldn't help myself. But I am committed to the job, so I stay focused on the job. But I get to dance a little bit and stay committed to the purpose of my being there. So in essence, I am a dancer, and I'm always gonna want to dance. So I say, well, I took on this commitment, and I'm gonna follow it through. So that comes first, and then I get to dance later. And so, but I've been fortunate to have these opportunities where I've partied all these years, and then later on, years later, I had an opportunity to work in the industry in different capacities, different, little roles that still get me an opportunity to be part of the vibe, because um, I wasn't always in a position where I didn't always get to hear, feel what was going on in the dance floor. But when those moments happen, I guess, I was like focused on work, and work is work. And then maybe after the shift, I get to dance at least 1 hour before I end the night. So at least I get sometimes a little dancing. But when I take on my duty to be assigned to whatever that is, whether it's cashier, will call, or merchandise, or guest list, whatever role that I'm presented, because now I'm more like a freelancer, on a per diem basis as needed. Like, it's fine. Like, I just come in, and then when I get to dance a little bit, I get to dance a little bit. Been clubbing for a long time, so I've been dancing for a long time. So if I get to make a little extra something, I'm graciously accepting that too. So I have fun doing both, and I balance it well.
So back in the day, there was clubbing, and then there were a lot of external influences into clubbing, specifically HIV and party substances. What effect did that have on the scene? And then talk to us about the generation of people that are clean now, and that whole getting clean, and how that changed their club experience. How did that affect the club scene overall? Like, what changes did it have, if at all? Like,
In the past, or going into the future, into the
in
present.
the past, in the past.
In the past, well, from my understanding, um, when HIV was prevalent in the gay community, it changed the perspective of like how to still live and party, knowing that your friends were dying of HIV and AIDS, right? because back then nobody knew what it really was and nobody knew how to be treated. And so a number of people kept dying. And so like you still wanted to live and support your friend that was dying. So I've had a few friends that did pass away, and I have some family members that do live with HIV, and they're fortunate to still be doing well. So back then, because a lot of us didn't know what HIV was, it was just like you still partied and you still was having unprotected sex because you didn't know at first that that was the correlation to getting HIV. So for a long time, I think for the most part, I think most people didn't change their behavior and how they partied and how they had sexual practices. Um, so it didn't change right away until I guess until it became more of an educational piece. Listen, this is what HIV is, and this is what you need to do to prevent yourself from getting HIV. And once people got more information and more educated, I think it changed over time, like how to say, I have to be protected. I have to practice different, say for sex practices. I have to, do something different so I can survive this and still party, but survive this.
What is your mom's PhD in?
It's in education, but sometimes I say in everything because she's been in the social service field, um, and she's been a director and a dean in a college. She's also been a professor. She's also, she's taught in universities. So she has a whole wealth of experience in her career. And she even just recently wrote a book, a biography. And in that, she speaks of her experience, being a Puerto Rican woman working in the industry that she was in early on and the discrimination back then. And so she's achieved a great deal. And, she's, she also had a daycare center. So she has a wealth of experience. But she finally retired just a few years ago and she's in her 70s. She worked a really long time. So she's a great achiever and an influence in some of the things that I think that drive me to continue to strive to do the things that I enjoy doing in my career, and just whatever else I can evolve into in my field to continue to be of service in some capacity in my fields where I'm seeing positive outcomes in people's lives and communities' lives. And it's amazing work, and sometimes it gets kind of it's stressful because it's dealing with, but yeah, I think part of what she's done has been what helped me and my siblings be just a strong minded and driven. And that's the part that I cherish about like my mom, that she's always been driven, and so I was born driven.
And my final question, what advice would you give to the next generation of club kids?
The club kids, now it's different. It's not like it used to be. I think now getting out into a club, into the atmosphere seems so different and dangerous in essence. I find that for whatever reason, I feel there's more predators out there waiting for you to get drunk and take advantage of you. I don't know why that I feel that, but I guess that's what I believe because I've seen maybe I've seen some of what can happen to people that do get drunk and need to be taken care of in a club, and it could be unsafe. So it's to be more aware, to be more in groups, because it's probably there's a lot more criminality, there's a lot of more activities going on that I don't remember happening back then, even on the trains, like people getting pushed and different things that are happening. And it's a huge trend that's very concerning, that made me feel that the city is much more dangerous, or partying is a lot more dangerous than before. Like I think you have to have a lot of awareness and staying very alert to what's going on around you, especially when you're drinking or whatever else you're choosing to do. And to be like, making sure you're just like with someone else or a group of other people. Like it's not the same like going out and like before. It's a whole different mindset of people that are out there. It's a different time. And even now, when I go out, I'm extra alert because now I know I'm in a different time zone. Like I know that there's people that are out there capable of, watching you and perhaps hurting you. Before I didn't think about that because it didn't feel that way, but now it feels that way. So for anybody that's young and venturing out to clubs and partying, um, I would just highly recommend maybe not drinking if they don't have to, or being careful of how much they consume and being in groups or at least with another person that they can feel safe with, because traveling alone probably is unsafe during these times. And it's unfortunate because partying is always going to exist, even though the scenes are different. The clubs in New York City have changed, and oh my God, do I hope that one day we could have the venues that we so desire to dance. Because we're always going to have groups of people that want to dance and party till the morning, or at least till 5 in the morning. So it's a different time, but hopefully we'll get some clubs back in um, and get to continue to party on as New Yorkers and party people. And in other parts of the world, I guess they do it similar than New Yorkers, but the club scene is different. But I know that if I had to change it, I'd be like winning the lotto. If I win the lotto, open a club and make sure that it's more than one floor, that it's different experiences for everybody, and that it has security to ensure everybody's safety. Because safety has to come first for every patron that goes to these clubs, including those young people that are going out there to party.
That was great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I wish everybody the best, and things will get back close to normal, but it'll be best when it's safer. And blessings to you and anyone that's gonna be watching this. Bye.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.